I've removed extra or awkward wording, tightened the pacing and kept it cinematic, engaging, and natural for narration. I own this bank, said the old man. Everyone laughed until Elon Musk wiped off his makeup. A single gunshot silenced the laughter. The echo lingered in the marble lobby of First National Bank. "Nobody move," shouted the security guard, his voice cracking as he pointed his gun at the ceiling. A sprinkle of plaster dust fell from above. "Sir, please step away from that door." All eyes turned to the man who had started it all. An old, disheveled figure in a worn tweed jacket, one hand resting calmly on the doorknob of the branch manager's office. He looked completely unbothered by the weapon aimed at him. His lined, weathered face revealed decades of hardship but not a hint of fear. "Young man," he said clearly, "I have an appointment." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Customers huddled against the walls, some clutching their children, others recording with trembling phones. It was 2:17 p.m. on a Friday in downtown Chicago. What had started as an ordinary banking day had just turned into chaos. James Porter, 76 years old according to his driver's license, stood perfectly still. His thin frame cast barely a shadow on the polished floor, but his eyes moved with a calculating sharpness that didn't match his frail appearance. "Sir, I need you to lie down," said Thomas Wilkins, the new security guard only 3 weeks into the job. It already looked like his first real crisis was going to be a bank robbery by a senior citizen. The old man sighed tiredly. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here because I have business with Mr. Daniels. Important business." Behind the counter, teller Melissa Thompson watched nervously. This was the third time that week Mr. Porter had visited, each time more insistent than before. First he'd asked for old account records, then ownership documents. Now he'd gone straight for the manager's office. Setting off the alarm, the branch manager, Bradley Daniels, emerged from his office, immaculate navy suit, red tie, every inch the corporate professional. His calm, controlled expression was a stark contrast to the old man's rumpled appearance. He nodded to Melissa, silently telling her to intervene. "Mr. Porter," she called out, steady but tense. "Let's all take a breath. Nobody needs to get hurt." Porter turned his piercing blue eyes toward her. "I'm perfectly calm, young lady. It's your guard who's overreacting." As police sirens wailed outside, Daniels stepped forward. "Mr. Porter, come with me. We can talk this out." "Thomas, lower your weapon." "I don't think Mr. Porter means any harm." Thomas hesitated, then slowly lowered his gun. "Sir, I still need to follow procedure." "I understand," Daniels said gently. "You've done your job. Now let me do mine." The tension eased. Porter's hand slipped from the doorknob. His shoulders sagged, not in defeat but in weary acceptance. "Finally," he muttered, "someone with sense." Daniels gestured toward his office. "After you, Mr. Porter." The old man shuffled forward, clutching a worn leather portfolio to his chest like it held his soul. Before stepping in, he paused and looked Daniels square in the eyes. "You have no idea what's coming," he said quietly. Inside, the door shut against the murmuring crowd. Daniels took his seat behind his polished mahogany desk and motioned for Porter to sit. "Mr. Porter, this is your third visit this week. Your behavior is becoming concerning. If you tell me what you need, maybe we can resolve this." Porter didn't sit. He stared out the window at the police cars now lining the street. "You should tell them to stand down," he said. "This is a private matter." Daniels studied him. Porter didn't look dangerous, frail white hair, shabby clothes, but a quiet dignity. He didn't seem insane either, just determined. "I'll talk to them," Daniels said, making a quick call to calm the situation. When he hung up, he leaned forward. "Now please tell me what this is about." Porter finally sat down, resting the leather portfolio on his lap. "Mr. Daniels, how long have you been with this bank?" 17 years, Daniels replied. "Started as a loan officer, worked my way up." Porter nodded. "Then you remember this place before the acquisition, before United Financial Group took over?" "Of course. That was 5 years ago. The transition was smooth." Porter smiled bitterly. "Smooth for whom, I wonder?" "Tell me, did anyone ever mention the name Porter during that transition?" Daniels frowned. "Can't say I recall." "You wouldn't," Porter said. They made sure of that. Outside, Melissa was calming the shaken customers. Most decided to leave, eager to escape the drama. The guard stood by the door, talking to the police. Curious eyes peered through the glass into Daniel's office. Daniels turned back to Porter, his patience thinning. Mr. Porter, we've been through this. If you're here about your accounts, I'm not here about my accounts, Porter interrupted, opening his portfolio. I'm here because I own this bank. Daniels froze, then laughed awkwardly. I'm sorry, what? I own this bank, Porter repeated, sliding a stack of yellowed documents across the desk. These are the original ownership certificates. First National Bank, this entire regional chain. My family founded it. Daniels hesitated, examining the papers. They were aged, stamped, and signed, some dating back to 1937, naming William Porter as founder. Later documents showed transfer of ownership to James Porter in 1978. They looked real, but it couldn't be. Mr. Porter, Daniels said carefully, First National was acquired 5 years ago. It's part of a publicly traded group now. Whatever these are, they're outdated. Porter leaned forward, eyes blazing. Do you know how that acquisition happened, Mr. Daniels? How a bank is bought? Daniels blinked. There's due diligence, regulatory approval. And what if, Porter cut in, the people who sold it never had the right to? Daniels' composure faltered. Sir, that's a serious accusation. If you believe there was fraud, you should consult an attorney. Oh, I have, Porter said grimly. For 5 years. These are just copies. The originals are safe, along with proof of what really happened. Outside, curious employees gathered by the glass, whispering. Inside, the air grew heavy with something more than tension, something like truth. And for the first time, Daniels wasn't sure who really owned the bank he managed. Alexander had been working in Europe, building his own business empire. By the time he returned for the funeral, I'd already suffered a stroke and couldn't communicate. The old man's voice softened. While I was incapacitated, members of the bank's board took advantage of me. They forged documents, created a false paper trail, and stole my controlling interest. Daniels shifted uneasily. Mr. Porter, those are serious accusations. Porter continued as if he hadn't spoken. By the time I recovered, the sale to United Financial was already underway. Alexander tried to stop it, but with me unable to testify and the original documents stolen from our home, he couldn't. The branch manager's expression softened. If there's any truth to this, it's tragic. I'm sorry for what you and your family went through, but the acquisition was finalized 5 years ago. All approvals were granted. The transaction is done. No transaction based on fraud is ever truly complete, Mr. Daniels. Porter closed his folder and leaned back. The statute of limitations for fraud in Illinois is 5 years. Do you remember the date it was finalized? Daniels didn't need to check. April 15th, 2020. And today, Porter said with a thin smile, is April 14th, 2025, 1 day short of 5 years. Curious timing, don't you think? Outside the office, Kevin had inched closer, catching fragments of the conversation. The old man thinks he owns the bank, he whispered to a teller named Jason. Jason chuckled. The whole bank? That's what it sounds like, Kevin said, loud enough for others to hear. Daniels is being polite, but the guy's delusional. Whispers spread through the lobby. Even the security guard raised an eyebrow. Inside, Daniels tried to keep the situation under control. Mr. Porter, I sympathize, but this isn't something I can address. It's a corporate matter. I've tried that, Porter said calmly. Letters, phone calls, complaints to regulators. 5 years of being ignored and dismissed. Daniels spread his hands. Then what do you expect me to do? I'm just a branch manager. You can listen, Porter said, leaning forward, and prepare for what's about to happen. Because today, after 5 years of investigation, we're ready to reclaim what was stolen. Something in his tone made Daniels pause. The man didn't sound crazy. His eyes were sharp, his words measured. What exactly do you mean by reclaim? Daniels asked. Porter ignored the question and took out a sleek smartphone, surprisingly modern in his weathered hands. Do you know who Alexander Porter is? Daniels shook his head. Should I? My son. He spent the last 5 years building his fortune under another name, to avoid drawing attention to our family's connection to this bank. Outside, Kevin kept whispering to anyone who'd listen. Probably found some old bank stock in his granddad's attic and thinks he hit the jackpot. Laughter rippled through the lobby. But Porter went on. Alexander has spent millions funding this investigation. Teams of forensic accountants, document specialists, and attorneys have pieced everything together. Daniels checked his watch. Mr. Porter, I have other appointments. Cancel them, Porter said firmly. You'll want to be available for this meeting. Mr. Porter, with all due respect, I can't rearrange my schedule based on unverified claims. I understand, Porter replied, typing quickly on his phone. But tell me, what would convince you I'm telling the truth? Authentic documents, Daniels said. Expert verification, witness testimony. But even then, this needs to go through corporate legal. All of that, Porter said, is already here. He nodded toward the glass wall. Daniels turned to see a commotion at the bank's entrance. A group of people in business attire was walking in, serious, purposeful, unlike any regular customers. Who are they? Daniels asked. The beginning of the reckoning, Porter said. At their center walked a woman in her 50s, silver streaks in her hair, sharp in a charcoal suit. Daniels recognized her instantly. Veronica Hayes, CEO of United Financial Group. Porter nodded. Yes, I believe she received a rather urgent call from her legal team this morning. Before Daniels could respond, the office door opened. Veronica Hayes stepped inside, flanked by two attorneys carrying briefcases marked with the company logo. Mr. Daniels, she said briskly, I understand you've been speaking with Mr. Porter. Yes, Ms. Hayes, Daniels replied, standing awkwardly. He was showing me some old documents. Hayes turned to the older man. Mr. Porter, I received a very disturbing communication from your attorneys this morning. Porter stood, his posture tall despite his age. Thank you for coming, Ms. Hayes. I trust you've reviewed the documents. Hayes's jaw tightened. I have. The claims are extraordinary and difficult to believe. And yet, Porter said with a faint smile, you're here. If our evidence wasn't compelling, you would have sent it down the chain. The tension in the room was palpable. Outside, the laughter in the lobby had faded to uneasy silence. Is that really the CEO? Kevin whispered to Melissa. She never visits branches without notice, Melissa said softly. Something's going on. Inside, Hayes took a seat beside Porter, her lawyers standing behind her. Mr. Daniels, she said, recalling the branch manager. Please excuse us. This requires privacy. Daniels hesitated, torn between relief and curiosity. Of course, Ms. Hayes. Actually, Porter interjected, I'd prefer Mr. Daniels stay. What happens next will affect him, and every employee in this branch. Hayes hesitated, then nodded. Very well. Close the door. Daniels obeyed, taking a seat as every eye turned toward him. Mr. Daniels, Hayes said, her tone cool and measured. What I'm about to say is strictly confidential. You are not to discuss it with anyone, not until an official announcement is made. Understood, ma'am, Daniels replied automatically, his mind racing. Was the bank being sold again? Was this branch closing? Hayes turned back to Porter. Our legal team reviewed the documents your attorneys provided this morning. While we don't concede the validity of your claims, they do warrant further investigation. Porter nodded, unsurprised by her caution. And the timing? He asked. You understand the importance of tomorrow's date? Hayes's expression tightened. We do. If your allegations hit the court tomorrow, the publicity could be damaging, both for our shareholders and regulators. The SEC takes a dim view of acquisitions based on fraudulent documents, Porter added. Outside, a crowd had gathered. Customers lingered, pretending to finish their business while trying to catch a glimpse through the glass. Kevin, the young teller, leaned toward Jason. This is weird. The old guy claims he owns the bank, and suddenly our CEO shows up with lawyers. Jason frowned. Maybe he's not as crazy as we thought. Inside, the tension thickened. We're prepared to consider a settlement, Hayes said carefully. Our board has authorized preliminary negotiations pending verification of your documents. Porter leaned back, eyes steady. I'm not interested in a settlement, Miss Hayes. I want what was stolen from my family. One of Hayes's attorneys stepped forward. Mr. Porter, please be reasonable. Litigation could take years. A settlement could provide substantial compensation without the fight. Porter shook his head. You misunderstand. This isn't about money, it's about justice. Hayes interjected. Then what exactly are you proposing? A full restoration of ownership, Porter replied. Return controlling interest in First National Bank to the Porter family, where it belongs. The room fell silent. First National might not be United Financial's largest asset, but it was a major one. That's impossible, Hayes said finally. Even if your claims had merit, which we are not conceding, the acquisition is complete. Systems integrated. Operations merged, all of which can be undone, Porter interrupted. The only question is whether it happens cooperatively or through public litigation exposing your board's fraud. For a moment, Hayes's mask slipped, just enough to reveal concern before she regained control. These are serious allegations, Mr. Porter, accusing board members of fraud. The evidence is irrefutable, Porter cut in. We've documented everything, from forged signatures to offshore accounts. Daniels, unable to stay silent, blurted out, "Are you saying United Financial's acquisition of First National was fraudulent?" "That's impossible. There were shareholder votes, regulatory approvals, based on falsified ownership records," Porter said calmly. "When my son tried to intervene, he was told I'd sold my shares years ago, using documents forged while I was incapacitated after my stroke." Hayes exchanged glances with her legal team. "We'll need to verify your claims. Our forensic experts must examine the originals." "Of course," Porter nodded. "They're secure and available. But another piece of evidence will arrive shortly that may convince you faster." His phone buzzed. Porter smiled. Perfect timing. Outside, the lobby stirred again. The doors opened to a small entourage, and at the center of it, a tall man in a black t-shirt and jeans, instantly recognizable, Elon Musk. The entire bank froze. Employees and customers stared in disbelief as the billionaire strode toward the branch manager's office. Daniel's jaw dropped. "Is that Elon Musk?" Musk walked straight to the glass-walled office, ignoring the murmurs. Inside, Hayes rose from her chair, stunned. "What is he doing here?" Before Porter could answer, Musk entered, followed by two suited security men. "Sorry I'm late," he said casually. "Traffic was worse than expected." "Thank you for coming, Elon," Porter said. "I believe you know Miss Hayes." "We've met," Musk said, shaking her hand. "Good to see you again, Veronica." "I'm surprised to see you here," Hayes admitted. "I imagine you are," Musk replied evenly. "I've been involved from the beginning. Alexander is an old friend. When he told me what happened to his father's bank, I offered to help." "Alexander?" Hayes frowned. "Alexander Porter," the old man confirmed. Outside, the commotion grew as people realized Elon Musk was inside. Cameras flashed through the glass. Inside, Hayes composed herself. "Mr. Musk, with respect, this is a private matter." "Actually," Musk smiled, "I'm just the supporting act. The real protagonist hasn't arrived yet." The door opened again. A tall man in a tailored suit entered, early 60s, salt and pepper hair, confident presence. "Sorry for the delay," he said. "The makeup team needed extra time today." Hayes blinked, confused. "Who is this?" Musk stepped aside. "Veronica Hayes, meet Alexander Porter. The real Alexander Porter." The newcomer placed a gentle hand on the elderly man's shoulder. "You did well, James. Thank you for playing my father." Gasps filled the room. Daniel stared between them. "If you're Alexander Porter, then who is he?" "A friend," Alexander said. "James Howren, a retired actor helping me with a very important project." 3 hours later, the top-floor conference room of First National Bank was packed. Executives and lawyers from United Financial sat in stunned silence as Alexander Porter, no longer disguised, laid out the truth. "The acquisition 5 years ago was fraudulent," he said, calm but firm. "The board members who approved it had no legal authority. The signatures were forged." Hayes looked pale. "Our legal team verified the documentation." "Forged documentation," Alexander corrected, sliding a folder toward her. "Excellent forgeries, but forgeries nonetheless." He projected financial records on the screen. "I spent 5 years gathering evidence with forensic accountants and legal experts. Hundreds of millions siphoned away, money meant for shareholders, communities, employees." Gasps rippled through the room. 3 board members orchestrated this: Whitfield, Lansing, and Dumont. "They're currently being questioned by federal investigators." Margaret, the CFO, stood up. "This is absurd." Alexander fixed his gaze on her. "You had access to every record. Were you complicit or simply negligent? She sat down silently. United Financial has two options, Alexander continued. Fight this in court publicly, or admit the fraud, return control of First National, and work with us on a transition. How do we know you're really Alexander Porter? A lawyer asked. DNA confirms it, he said. And I have the original ownership, certificates and testimony from former board members forced to resign. An older man at the table finally spoke. I remember your father. James believed banks should serve communities, not exploit them. Alexander nodded. That's why I'm here, not just to reclaim what's ours, but to restore this bank's integrity. He turned to the employees who had laughed at him earlier. The banking industry has lost its way. We've forgotten our purpose, to help people build secure futures. That changes now. The room fell silent. Daniels, the branch manager, finally spoke. I've been here 17 years. I remember what this place used to stand for. Then help me bring that back, Alexander said. As night fell over the city, plans took shape. Teams were formed. First National Bank began a new chapter, one built on integrity, community, and justice. For Alexander Porter, the disguise had ended, but the promise he made at his father's deathbed was finally kept.